Hey everybody, welcome to Amy Nolte Music. You can watch the extended cut of this video on Nebula. When I first wanted to be a jazz piano player and I wanted to do it for a living, one of the best pieces of advice that I got was to be able to practice so that I could play any song in any key at any time. Really daunting. But I've practiced that way for years and years, and when it comes to most popular music, I'm pretty good at being able to play anything in any key. And a lot of times I have to. I get thrown into situations where, I just have to. Sometimes on social media, if I play a song that people know in a key that's different from the key that it was written in, I pay for it in the comments. Sometimes I like to do this thing where I take a song that people know, but I disguise the melody, and I just see if I can play a different melody and people can still recognize the song from the harmony alone. And oftentimes when I do this, I put it in another key than it was originally written in to further disguise it. But this tends to make people upset. Actually, it mostly makes guitarists upset. It happened recently when I did this to the Beatles yesterday. Check it out. Recognize this very famous song if I change the melody. So, people who are mad at me for putting it in another key, they're likely guitar players who have always played this song in F. But I think that maybe they are people who just haven't thought about it very much also. So today I want to help you think about this stuff a little bit more. Now in this case, I put yesterday purposely in the key of B flat to further mess you up. That was my purpose with this Instagram post. See if you can recognize a song just from the harmony. But I also played a Beatles song at a gig recently, and I posted a video of it, and I was talking about the music theory of the song Nowhere Man. And when I was talking about it, I was like, I played Nowhere Man in E flat last night at my gig, so I'm going to talk about it in E flat. And in this case, it was my guitarist, Mike Scott, who commented and said this. Yeah, like nobody would ever make a guitarist play this in E flat. Come on, Amy. And to my credit, there was no guitar player on the gig. It was only me, a drummer, and a bass player. Why did I put it in E flat, you might ask? Well, it brings me to my first point. Different instrumentalists excel in different keys. When I saw that this song was in E and I knew that I'm carrying this gig, it's a piano trio, and I was going to have to solo, to improvise in the key of E, I said to myself, Amy, you don't normally improvise in the key of E. Jazz music is never in E. And I thought, in order to give myself a better fighting chance of being able to take a good solo and play some really nice lines, I was going to put it in a key close to E because it's a good key for me to sing in, and I just chose E flat. My bass player did not He didn't say one thing about it. He's a great player, great guy. But if there would have been a guitar player on the gig, for sure, I would have kept the song in E and I would have given them the solo. Now, which keys are best for which instruments is a question that I can't answer for everyone, but I can give you the fairly universally accepted answer. And when we're talking about guitar players, they're used to the sharp keys. They're going to most likely play in E and A and D and G and C, like everything on the right side of the circle of fifths. That lets them showcase their open strings and make these beautiful sounds that you just don't typically get if you're playing in E flat or A flat. As a piano player, pianists generally do better when songs have very few sharps, like the keys of D and G, no sharps or flats at all, like C, or the flat keys like F, B flat, E flat, even A flat. Saxophone players, they prefer the sharp keys. Oftentimes you'll see saxophone players that are playing in D or in G, and they will tell you oftentimes that they prefer to see sharps written over flats. Now, a big reason for this is that a lot of saxophone players start by playing the alto saxophone. Like if you play a concert B flat, for them, that's a G. They're going to play a G. And a lot of band music is in concert B flat. So saxes start playing in the key of G a lot early on, and also the key of D, which just shows them sharps from the time that they're 9, 10, 11 years old. Tenor saxophone players are a different story. A concert B flat for them is a C. It's the same for brass players, most brass players, trumpet players. So when band music is put in the key of B flat, they're playing in C, and they're not seeing many accidentals. Brass players are generally more comfortable with the flat keys. String players is kind of the same as a guitar player. Bass player, same thing. Although I would argue that guitarists and bass players get so used to playing in the flat keys for the horns and for the pianists that they're just true heroes. They can, my guitar players can play just as well in E flat as they could if the song were in E. And I just think they're kind of unsung superheroes for being able to do that, especially the jazz ones. But now that brings me to singers. I'm both. I play piano and I sing. And I remember the first time I really gave some thought to the question of what key something's in. I was a freshman in high school. Garth Brooks had just released that first hit album, No Fences, I think. And I come from a pretty hick town, so all my friends were singing Friends in Low Places. A lot of times we're all traveling together, going to sports games, whatever. That was blasting on the bus, and everybody's singing it. And that song is in A, which is perfect for Garth Brooks. When the chorus comes along, I realize that this is not my key. I've got friends in low. Like, that is so low. It's a low A. Places where the whiskey drowns. My high note there is a C sharp. So all the guys on the bus are just busting out this song in full voice. It's like right at the top of their range. They sound so good right there. And so I try to sing it an octave higher, I've got friends in low places where the whiskey... It's not the same. Maybe if I could belt, it would be the same. But for me, friends in low places was just... I'm not going to sing, probably, if that song comes on. It was in Garth's key, not my key, and not a key for many women. So if I had to perform this song, my logic tells me from years of experience that I should put it about a fourth away or a fifth away from where it was. Now, why do my years of experience tell me this? It's because every single song with lyrics that is in the real book that we use as jazz players or the old fake books is in a key for a man to sing. I have a friend named Melissa Forbes, and she and her colleague have put together a great study about this. They found that the printed keys rarely matched the keys used by female vocalists. They argue that the real book's choice of keys reflects a male-dominated practice and disadvantages female singers. For example, in their sample, less than 5% of 248 recordings fully matched the printed key, and they explicitly say that female singers have to transpose in order to suit their voices. Female singers, and even just singers in general, male singers do it as well, tend to get a bad rap amongst instrumentalists. And the reason is this, for the females, they always have to put the song about a fourth or a fifth away from the original key, like the key that Frank Sinatra sang it in. That's basically how the keys came to be. The male vocalists at the time that performed it, it was just put in their key. Oftentimes also from the original Broadway recordings, I think. But female singers, like say, if I wanted to sing There Will Never Be Another You, it's horrible for my voice if I did it in the E flat that you'll find it in the real book. So I always put it in B flat. It's great for me right there. It's like right in the, buttery part of my voice. And if I'm going to excel on that song, I'm going to put it in B flat. Now, what if I had done my homework and figured out that actually the best place for this song in my voice is in the key of B. And if I'm really going to shine on this, and my low note's going to be so nice and warm, and my high note's going to be just, beautiful, it has to be in B. Some singers do that. I don't do that because I'm a piano player, and I'm here to offer a public service announcement to any singer that is in the habit of doing that. Now, great musicians should be able to play in the key of B as well as they can play in the key of B flat. They should, and I should. And if I'm accompanying, I probably can. But if I'm going to take a solo, I'm just not going to solo in the key of B nearly as well as I'm going to solo in B flat. I've played in B flat my whole life. So much music is in B flat. So for the singer, I would suggest whatever key you think is the money key for your voice on a particular song, it's always going to be a half step above or below where you could make your instrumentalist super comfortable if you would just shift it. Just, instead of B, put it in B flat, or instead of B, put it in C, because you want your band to sound their best on your gigs. You don't want to give somebody a book that's got Summertime in F sharp minor. I'm going to see that and I'm going to be like, ooh, okay, my solo is going to be simple, and I hope I don't play very many wrong notes, because I don't really practice Summertime in F sharp minor, even though I should. So that's my little rant about that. Singers, give your band a fighting chance. If you want them to sound so good as they're taking their solos at your gig, just put the songs in easier keys for them. Now, I think there are times when there is some song that has been written that it would almost be sacrilegious to put it in another key. Like, I think if I wanted to sing Stairway to Heaven in F minor, guitarists would look at me like I'm freaking crazy, and I just shouldn't do it, right? Like, that song was written in A key for a reason. It's beautiful in the key that it's in, and it's got all those lovely open strings, and the shapes that the guitar players are making on their neck are, they're ones that everybody knows and studies, and like, there are some songs that do belong in a key, and I will consent to that for sure. I also think that if I were to call Giant Steps at a jazz gig in a key different than the one that we all always do it in, I think they would look at me like I was nuts. And really, all I'm doing is setting people up to fail. Kind of like John Coltrane did when he gave the chart to his band to play it in the first place. It's not fair if you've practiced something a ton and your bandmates haven't.
I'd have to say that really depends. I mean, because I could imagine like a scenario like when you're with musicians you play with all the time, and somebody says like, "Oh, hey, for fun, why don't we try this?" But I mean, if it's just like on a gig and you're showing it up, and it's like musicians you don't normally play with, that would be like, why are we? It would almost seem like as someone trying to show off or prove like, hey, dig me, look what I've been practicing. But that one, I mean, in my 20 plus years, I've never had anybody ask for it in any, call it a request to play it, anything in other than the original and than the original key.
I asked a couple of friends these questions, and this is what they had to say. The first question I asked them was, what key is Summertime in?
The first one is, what is the key of Summertime? And the correct answer is B minor. The reason why it's in B minor is because that's the original key that Gershwin wrote it in for his opera Porgy and Bess. It was originally written for a lyric soprano. It's an aria, and when you put it in the key of B minor, it has a certain quality that a lyric soprano can deliver. It's quite high, but also light. It's a lullaby, but it has this kind of beautiful presence in that key. And I say that's the correct key because that's the context in which it was originally written, but of course jazz musicians take songs and put them into different kinds of contexts, and one way you can do that is by changing the key. So a lot of jazz musicians take it down a little bit because, B minor is very high, and jazz as a genre doesn't have that kind of operatic quality. So in the real book, it's in A minor. I played it in like D minor, I played it in G minor. It really depends on like the singer or the instrumentalist or the reference recording. So Summertime can be in any key, but the original key was B minor.
Now, classical music is different. Mozart wrote his 19th piano concerto in the key of F for a reason, and that concerto will never be played in another key. The notes are the notes, and the pianist has learned that piano concerto, and the fingering just flows in that key, and they will never need to play it in another key. But I was just wondering, what would happen if I asked a classical piano player to play a very well-known song in another key. In fact, I thought I would try it myself. I don't really know how often pianists in the classical world get asked to do something like this, but I'm going to venture to say it's not very often. I asked my friend Scott Holden, who is a world-renowned classical pianist, to weigh in on this, and this is what he had to say.
In general, I think most composers compose things in very specific keys, and those keys have certain fingerprints and meanings for those composers. I think of Beethoven, when he writes something in C minor, that's kind of his go-to key for like real angst and drama. You know, the Fifth Symphony or the Pathétique Sonata or his very last sonata. It's hard to imagine the Pathétique in a different key from C minor. It's such a signature for him. Also, you know, you think of like the Moonlight Sonata in C sharp minor. I mean, what a drag that would be if it was in like G minor. In part because nobody really touched C sharp minor in general before that. Let's see. You think of Mozart, also touches on certain keys for very specific reasons. His slow movement of Mozart 488 Concerto in A major. The slow movement's in F sharp minor, and while that's related to A major, that's the only piece in his entire output of, I think, 626 works that is in F sharp minor. And there's not a more, I mean, I don't think it's hyperbole to say there's not a more beautiful piece in his output. Schumann, who wrote his, this is an unusual example, his Toccata, Opus 7, which has, I think it's 6,266 notes in approximately 5 minutes. It's an insanely difficult piece. He wrote it in D major at first, and then he decided, no. It was such a handful and so difficult. He transposed it to C major, but that's pretty unusual for composers to write things in a different key and then change them. The idea of like, what key do you want to do it in would be an absurdity and an impossibility. It would be good for pianists, including me, to be able to do this in multiple keys, but this is a lot more complicated, and of course there's no need to improvise. So, a million more notes and a million more specificities with a million more structured parameters than many jazz standards. So. Anyway, that's a few thoughts on that.
Songs are written in a key in classical music, and that's how it's always been, and I think that's how it always will be. My main point today is that you want people to play their best. If you play with a singer that wants to sing Nowhere Man in E flat instead of E, and it's doable for you, I say don't give them any trouble about it. Just play it in E flat. If you know that you could play it better in E, ask them. There's no harm in just saying, would you mind if we do it in E? That happens to me all the time with my guitar player, Mike. I'll say, could we do this song in this key? And he would say, oh, actually the original has really cool stuff for guitar, so could we do it in the original key? And if I can do it, I'll say yes, because I want him to sound his best. And if he can give a little to make me sound my best, then we'll do that. And I want you to have a little bit of grace for people on the internet that might do things in different keys, because I want the best for all of you guys as you go out there and you're performing and you're arranging and you're composing. And I hope that my little observations click for you sometimes and help things to be better. I also want the best for you as you navigate a world of changing technological advances in the way that we work every day and the way that we communicate with each other. Did you know that you can get your personal information taken down from the internet? Data brokers are in the business of finding your personal details and selling access to it. And sometimes they can share it with some pretty shady people. Incogni can help with this. We all have the right to have our personal information taken down, but that can take a lot of time and effort and in some cases legal action, and it's time that we just don't have. I signed up for Incogni, gave them the legal rights to work on my behalf, and I just sit back and let them work it all out for me. I did that back in September, and before September, I was really seeing an uptick in spam. Every year, the number of data breaches worldwide goes up. Recently, 2.7 billion records were leaked by a company called National Public Data. Social security numbers, addresses, full names, phone numbers. But here's a cool thing. There wasn't a single person in that leak that had an opt-out service like Incogni. There are probably hundreds of companies out there right now with your personal information. This means you could see a rise in spam calls, spam texts, spam emails, but even identity theft and doxing. Incogni removes your data from data brokers and then persistently deals with any objections from their side. And they have a brand new feature called custom removals. They will find it immediately, track it down, remove it, check again every single month, repeatedly, again and again, to make sure that your information doesn't reappear. And they'll do it as many times as it takes so that your personal information stays safe. Every month I get a report from Incogni and they tell me just how many threats they detected and how many they have shut down. If you'd like to give it a shot, you can use the code that you see right here, Amy Nolte, and get 60% off of an annual plan. But you can choose the plan that best fits you and your family. Thanks to Incogni for supporting my video making efforts, and to all of you for always watching and for weighing in on the comments. If you haven't subscribed, do it. I'll see you next time on Amy Nolte Music.